You've brought us something truly remarkable this time. A full transcript of a hypnotherapy regression session. Really fascinating stuff.
It really is.
We're going to dive straight into it, unpack it, and, pull out the most insightful bits for you. Basically give you a shortcut to understanding some pretty deep material.
Exactly. You shared this detailed record of a YouTube session with a man named Krzysztof. And our mission really is to explore the key revelations,
Yeah.
especially around his past and these potential energetic influences that came up. Think of it as the highlight reel.
Okay, cool. So the session kicks off with the hypnotherapist Kamilka focusing on Krzysztof's subtle body. Now, for those maybe less familiar, is the subtle body sort of like our energetic blueprint, holding memories, emotions, stuff not quite tied to the physical?
That's a great way to put it, yeah. It's the energetic side of us. And the very first thing Kamilka perceives is a rather poignant image, a coffin, or maybe more like an open raft, floating on water.
Yeah.
And there's a child's body on it.
Right, and initially, this child looks alive, but then she senses, what? That the child has passed.
Exactly. And here's where it gets really curious. The DNA of this child is identified as being connected to Krzysztof.
Connected? How?
Well, it's seen not as a memory from this life, but as a resonance from another time, linked to his subtle body.
Wow. How can DNA be linked across lifetimes like that? Is that common in these sessions?
It's definitely one of the more, let's say, profound concepts that comes up. It suggests a deep soul-level connection, maybe karmic, held within that energetic blueprint we were just talking about. Not exactly scientific DNA, more an energetic signature.
Okay, got it. It gets even stranger, though, when they look at Krzysztof's subtle body right now, in the present. It's not all together, is it?
No, it's fragmented. Apparently about 50% is near his physical body, which, feels sort of intuitive.
Yeah.
But then there's 30% associated with that child on the raft, that past experience memory. And another 20% is, well, it's described as being on a frozen ship somewhere.
A frozen ship? What does that even mean?
It paints a strange picture, doesn't it? And this separation is seen as energetically significant. The 50% connected to his physical body now, it feels this sense of resignation, sadness, emptiness. But interestingly, that part wants to do the work in the session. And it's important to remember, even though these parts seem spread out in time or space, they're still connected, like facets of the same energy field.
Right, okay. So the strongest feeling is this deep sadness near the heart. So Kamilka guides him back to find where it started.
Exactly. Back to its first appearance in his subtle body. And this is where it gets really interesting. The vision is of a woman looking like a Native American, maybe South America, around 1832. And she's mourning deeply. A child has died.
And connecting the dots, the DNA link suggests this woman was his mother in that life.
That's the connection made, yes. The sadness he feels now is traced back to him, as a little boy then, maybe 3 or 4 years old, witnessing his mother's intense grief. Another sibling had just died, maybe at birth or soon after.
Oh, wow.
And he absorbed these, well, the term uses frequencies of sadness, like an emotional resonance. And it settled in him, especially around the heart. You mentioned he feels a heaviness in his chest now.
Yeah, that was in his notes, so a potential link right there. This emotional weight seems to have really affected him back then, too. The session looks at his death in that life.
It does, yeah. And it wasn't peaceful. He got a really high fever. They tried healing him with herbs, incantations, the traditional methods.
But it didn't work.
No. And he developed a cough, trouble breathing. Sounds a lot like pneumonia. And it happened fast. There was about 3.5 months between seeing his sibling die and getting the fever, but then only like 3.5 days from the fever starting until he passed away.
So quick.
Very. And the hypnotherapist felt the fever was physical, sure, but deeply tied to that emotional burden he was carrying. Like the grief weakened him, made him vulnerable.
That makes sense, in a way. Unprocessed grief lowering resilience. So the moment of death itself, his subtle body exits through the navel. That seems specific.
It does. There's even a mention of a warm oil being applied there, maybe influencing it. The navel often comes up in spiritual traditions, as an energy center, a connection point.
Like the cord connection.
Something like that, perhaps. The oil could have been part of a ritual to ease the transition, help separate the energy body from the physical.
Okay. And after leaving the body, his subtle self goes to his mother, tries to comfort her.
Yeah, apparently tries to comfort her, but he doesn't realize she can't see or hear him anymore.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
It is. The realization he's actually died comes quickly, though. And it leads to this sense of acceptance. Like, okay, what's next?
And that acceptance then is linked to the apathy he feels now.
That's the connection drawn. Like, that acceptance back then imprinted a pattern of resignation, energetically speaking,
Wow.
and the emptiness he feels now, also tied back there. His inability as a kid to really process his mother's huge emotions. He just absorbed it all, couldn't release it. It really starts to fit together, doesn't it?
It really does. Okay, so after his death, there's a ritual, Odprawodzenia.
Yes, a ritual of passing, involving chanting, like a sun prayer in another language. The essence of it was quite beautiful, actually. Something like, we're leading you from where you came, your soul is free, you'll come again.
So reincarnation is built right into their beliefs.
Absolutely. And Krzysztof, as a child in that community, he would have seen these rituals before. So these ideas returning, the soul being free, coming back, they get imprinted on his subtle body, specifically head down to the upper chest area.
Imprinted? How?
Again, there's a mention of an oil being applied, maybe as part of the ritual, helping to sort of seal in these beliefs at an energetic level, like programming.
So this imprinting creates this deep belief in returning, reincarnating on Earth. And his current life as Krzysztof is in continuity with that one, with a couple of others in between.
Yeah, 2 other lives, apparently, linear but not directly connected in the same way. And that raft on the water, that was part of this passing ritual too, carrying his physical body away, symbolizing the journey.
Okay, but then things take another turn, right? Energetic entities during the ritual.
Yes, but it's clarified. These weren't interfering entities in a bad way. It was other villagers, including children.
Living children.
Both living children and children without physical bodies. But their DNA was confirmed as human.
Okay, wait. Beings without physical bodies have human DNA. How does that work?
That's another one of those points that pushes the boundaries, isn't it? Maybe it means their soul essence, their energetic signature, still carries that human lineage connection. It points to stuff beyond our usual understanding.
Definitely. So these children, the non-physical ones too, go with Krzysztof's subtle body, where...
To a cold space, where they play by becoming frozen statues.
Play. Frozen statues. That doesn't sound like much fun.
Now, it sounds quite eerie. And Krzysztof becomes like a frozen statue there, too. And there are more kids there than just the ones that came with him.
Yeah.
6 were seen initially.
And each statue has something inside it. For Krzysztof, it's that apathy.
Exactly. It seems like this frozen state is a way of holding or containing these specific energetic patterns or emotions. Like putting them on ice, literally.
And this whole frozen space, it feels artificial, inside a ship.
Yes, like an artificial construct within a ship. And crucially, this is the same ship where that 21% of Krzysztof's subtle body is currently frozen right now.
Whoa. Okay, connecting the present to the past again. And these children, they're not being cared for. They're sent there for a purpose, like robots.
Sort of like robotic messengers, yeah, with suppressed memories. The regression suggests they're part of some kind of energy harvesting system. Their state makes them easier to use, maybe as conduits or anchors for energy.
Energy harvesting, okay. And where did this ship, this frozen space, come from?
Apparently, created by someone from that past life community, a guy with a big ego who set himself up as a spiritual leader, got followers.
Power dynamics, even in the afterlife, it seems.
Kind of. It's likened to how religion sometimes formed to maintain power. His rituals, the oils. They were presented as his special knowledge, giving him control over people's beliefs and, well, their energies.
So this ship, this whole setup, is tied to these ego-driven practices from the start. And it's structured, different areas for different groups.
Yeah, like sections for women, men, elders, based on their status in this system, hierarchical.
And there's active interference on this ship, too, an insectoid entity.
Right. During the session, Kamilka perceived a large insectoid trying to influence her, trying to hook in with a cable to her ear, maybe transmit or control information.
Yikes. Was she okay?
Yeah, she perceived it as being frozen energetically, so it couldn't interfere further. But it shows active players in this space.
Definitely. And the ship's crew, they benefit from Krzysztof being there, from his energy.
Yes, specifically energy from his navel area, described as reproductive, sexual energy, fertility, procreation. And this same energy is being harvested from all those frozen children, too.
Okay, so different beings are feeding off these energies.
It seems so. And different parts of the ship yield different flavors of energy. Suffering from the women's section described as the strong smell of blood, intense pain, ego from the men's section, and from the elderly section, feelings of life being fleeting, loneliness, sadness, finality.
It's like an emotional energy farm.
Oh,
Horrible.
It really paints that picture, yeah. a structured system harvesting specific emotional energies.
And the sexual energy, what's it used for?
It powers incubators, containing these insectoid-like creatures described like crickets or bedbugs suspended in some kind of plasma or gel.
Incubators, like a breeding program.
Seems like it. Part of research in breeding. Interestingly, they apparently tried to introduce human DNA linked to Krzysztof into these beings, but it didn't work.
Why would they do that? Mix human DNA with insectoids.
Good question. Maybe trying to create hybrids, understand human energy or biology for their own ends. The failure suggests maybe an incompatibility or perhaps some kind of energetic protection was in place.
And the energy is like food for them?
Exactly. Nourishment for these incubated beings. Like a placenta feeding a fetus, is the analogy used. But just his energy, not his DNA, was taken for the experiments.
And this isn't just past history, it's still happening now.
That's the claim, yes. Krzysztof's sexual energy is still being harvested in the present day.
Wow.
And his frequent sexual activity, his thoughts about sex, they're linked in the session to this energy drain, like an unconscious drive to replenish what's being taken.
That's quite an implication.
And those other energies, suffering, ego, ephemerality, they also feed these beings, like different vitamins, a whole energetic diet needed for this program.
Are there other entities involved besides the insectoids?
Yes. A gad, described as reptilian-like, is also present, higher up the chain than the insectoid.
Hierarchy again.
Seems so. The gad is more directive, controlling. The insectoid is more focused on the research side.
And the gad's goal, what's the end game?
Continuous energy harvesting from humanity, it seems. And those incubated beings, potentially soldiers for the gad, emotionless, controllable.
Soldiers. For what?
Used for destruction. The analogy given is like plagues of locusts devouring crops. It's a pretty bleak picture of interdimensional conflict and exploitation.
Definitely unsettling. Okay, going back to Krzysztof and reincarnation, as that frozen statue, he just stays there until the next life.
Essentially, yes. And that 21% of his subtle body stays on the ship, available for the energy harvesting.
So after death in that past life, his energy split 3 ways.
That's right. 30% stayed with the physical body, 21% went with the kids to the ship, and 49% remained sort of free-floating for a moment.
What does it mean, 30% staying with the physical body?
It gets trapped in what's called a locular state. Think of it like residual energy imprinted on the physical remains after death, like warmth left in a room.
Oh, okay.
This happens sometimes, maybe influenced by burial rites. That energy basically gets stuck there, tied to the past physical form. It just remains there.
Okay. And the 49% that was free, what happened to it?
It gets approached by a smoke-like screen linked to the gad. This screen has a calming scent, herbs, reminding him of the passing ritual. Puts him in a trance.
Deception again.
Seems to be a key tactic. The gad then appears, disguised as a hologram of the ritual leader from his village.
Manipulative.
Very. Tells the child Krzysztof he was brave, says he can go back to his mother, but subtly adds that she might look different, but he'll recognize her.
Setting him up.
Exactly. And implants this subliminal message, the fun is just beginning.
Chilling.
This was his first direct encounter with the gad, a real turning point.
And the fun was tricking him into the wrong incarnation.
Pretty much. He didn't meet his actual mother when he was supposed to. He was told she looked different, accepted another option, essentially being steered into lives chosen for him.
Chosen by the interferers. Why?
Based on frequency compatibility. Which lives would be best for their energy harvesting needs. So he was sort of thrown in, manipulated, and incarnating with only that 49% of his subtle body.
And that 49% was also being drained for energy.
Continuously, yes. Though it's noted there were no specific implants put in when he entered his current life as Krzysztof.
Okay, so fast forward to the session. To fix things now, they focus on the most conscious part of that 49%. Where is it?
Located around the solar plexus and abdomen. Described as the most childlike, emotionally accessible part of them.
Why there?
The solar plexus is often seen as the center of personal power, emotion, sense of self. Connecting there aims to reach the core of his feelings to help heal and integrate those fragmented parts.
And how did Krzysztof react, seeing all this unfold? His past lives, the interference?
With understanding, actually. Seeing the irrationality behind his present situation, didn't necessarily like it, but understood it.
And his emotional state during the session?
Initially, he felt his emotional body was just dead, then dull, shut down, not even distant, just switched off.
Wow. And his mental body?
Sleepy, numb. Even when nerves came up, it felt more like a daze, very disconnected.
And the sexual body?
Felt displaced, not under his control, used by something else. which fits perfectly with the energy harvesting narrative, doesn't it?
It really does tie it all together. So
Yeah.
then they went through his list of physical complaints, looking for energy links.
Exactly. Chronic fatigue that was linked to the energy drain, the separated subtle body. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Left-sided issues, shoulder, hip, heel, Achilles. Those were traced more to a physical injury, a fall he actually remembered. He called himself a gappa, clumsy.
Ah, so not direct manipulation there.
Apparently not direct manipulation, but the lack of full energetic integration, not having underfeigned of himself, probably made healing harder, exacerbated it.
Okay. Stiff neck.
Also seemed more physical. Holding tension, seasonal weight gain around the belly, no energetic link found there.
What about the twitches? Tagaki.
Those had been discussed before as possibly linked energetically, yeah.
And dizziness.
Linked to the mental body's numbness and a kind of dissonance, a clash between wanting to feel emotions like anger but mentally suppressing them, an energy clash inside.
Numbness in arms and hands.
Felt related to a stiff spine, but also rigid beliefs, holding on too tight in life, energetically, not manipulation, but like over-efforting, trying too hard.
Okay. His explosiveness, irritability, especially with manipulative people.
Tied to pent-up emotions stuck in his head, mental overrides, suppression, and that trying too hard again. His irritation with manipulators seemed to stem from his own really high personal standards and getting frustrated when others didn't meet them.
A lot of internal pressure building up.
Definitely. Perfectionism was seen, too, like a violet energy in his hands, linked partly to his mother's expectations, but also his own self-demanding nature, described as green mental programs.
And his trouble connecting spiritually.
No energetic block found. More a lack of belief in his own ability, feeling he needed some specific structure or method which actually stopped him connecting naturally. The advice: relax the expectations, stop trying so hard to make it happen.
Good advice for many, I think. Work conflicts.
Again, not directly energetic interference. More from his high standards clashing with others, he saw as incompetent or manipulative. The suggestion was for him to focus on his own stuff, stay in his own energy, don't get pulled into their drama, see it as a chance to build his own resilience.
Makes sense. What about that fainting episode 20 years ago?
The GAD was present then, monitoring, overseeing, but didn't cause the fainting that was likely physical.
That took advantage.
Seems so. During the episode, Krzysztof was shown thoughts designed to induce anxiety and instability, losing everything, potentially encoding fear, making him even more rigid and needing control later on, using a moment of vulnerability.
Wow. Okay, so then the session goes way back before his first incarnation on Earth.
Yeah, way back. He's seen as a humanoid being, kind of warrior-like, strong belief in his purpose for coming here, and confirmed, same subtle body, same DNA signature as the current Krzysztof.
Interesting. More masculine energy.
Perceived that way initially, though it's later clarified his species doesn't really have distinct genders like we do.
Okay. How did he first get to Earth?
Attempted teleportation from a ship. With others from his group, it worked. He got here. He seemed to acquire a body, like stepped into an existing physical body that later died. But his energy in that body was scanned because it was over norm.
Over norm, meaning
Yes.
too powerful, too aware.
Something like that, yeah. Outside the usual range for Earth, maybe carrying too much of his original awareness or abilities.
And this scan led to...
Being taken for energetic calibration by gray beings on a metal bed. This calibration dulled his knowledge, his abilities, like installing a block, made him forget himself.
And he's had how many lives since then?
A staggering 526 incarnations on Earth since that first one.
526. Wow. So the session takes the present-day Krzysztof back to that pre-incarnation moment.
Yes, his subtle body goes back with Kamilka's awareness alongside.
Yeah.
And they show his past self everything.
Everything.
The whole story. The mess-up entry, the scanning, the calibration, all 526 lives. The life is the boy, the rituals, the shift, the energy harvesting, the current life, the full picture.
How did his past self react to seeing all that?
With wisdom, apparently. Acknowledge the injustice, but without anger or frustration. More like a healthy pride in having gotten to where he is now, despite it all. A remarkable perspective.
That really is. Did he realize he didn't understand Earth back then?
He confirmed it, yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't get the rules of the game when he first jumped in. No, shown everything, he gets it. Full awareness.
And he shares this with his companions.
Yes. Tells them they should see it too. And crucially, he chooses to change the conditions.
Change the path.
Change the conditions of that first entry, prevents the scanning, prevents the calibration, ensures he keeps his knowledge, avoids the interference from the start. He also corrects the gender perception, clarifies his species doesn't have sexes like that, shows a bigger understanding.
So he takes control, creates his own entry.
Exactly. Bypasses the old system entirely. And the effect. When he re-enters this new timeline, all the knowledge from all 526 incarnations is instantly there, accessible, but without the heavy emotional baggage attached.
Like downloading the data without the trauma.
That's a good way to think of it, yeah. A massive energetic reset and upgrade.
So returning to the present, 2025 in the session, with these new conditions active, what happened?
He starts laughing.
Laughing.
After all that.
Yeah, seen as a really good sign. A total contrast to his earlier lack of emotional expression. He feels mature, wise, calm, accepts his feelings without denying them.
And his subtle body.
Fully integrated, 100%. No separation.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What about the ship, the entities?
Gone. Completely gone from his space. No lingering connection, no memory of him left in those places. A totally clean slate.
Wow. And the energy in his hands, the perfectionism.
Vanished.
Yeah.
That striving, demanding energy is gone. The fear around the spiritual world, the anxiety about uncertainty, also gone. It's like a complete energetic overhaul.
So his different energies, emotional, mental, sexual, they're all aligned now.
Beautifully integrated, yeah. And very high vibrational. His emotional state is described as deep peace, joy, self-respect.
He mentioned a control knob. Yes. Like he now understands he can choose his reactions. He's not just automatically reacting anymore.
So he enters his physical body with all this integration.
He does. Full integration, high vibrations. And he consciously uses his own energy to start supporting the healing of those old physical issues. The shoulder, hip, etc.
How does it feel being back in the body?
He says it feels good, though he does notice the denser energy of Earth, which is common. But overall, a positive shift. Feels embodied with a new level of self-awareness.
And the outlook for him now?
Really positive. He'll be able to work with himself skillfully now. Catch old negative patterns, but respond differently, maybe with laughter instead of anger. Smile more. Feel empowered in his choices. That old explosiveness transformed into a much more relaxed state.
That's incredible. Did they touch on his wife?
Briefly, yes. Connecting with her subtle body. He shares the info from the session with her energetically. And he gets a new understanding about her religious beliefs. No need to push her or try to awaken her forcefully.
How does that work?
His own integration, his higher vibration, his calmness.
Yeah.
That can influence her energetically just by him being himself. It might inspire her, create a safe space for her to explore her own path without him needing to confront her beliefs directly. His strength becomes a stable platform for her, potentially.
That's a much gentler approach. And Krzysztof's final thought for himself?
Kind of amusing, actually. Basically. No more excuses, time for self-work. But said with a sense of lightness, not pressure.
A good note to end on. Thank you for bringing us such a, well, profound and incredibly detailed source, this deep dive. It really showed a complex web of past stuff, energy interference, limiting beliefs.
It really did. A glimpse into just how deep these things can go, but also the potential for massive healing and change.
Absolutely. We saw this huge shift, didn't we, towards integration, self-awareness, and him consciously reclaiming his own reality, his own energy.
Yeah, this session really highlights how we might understand and shift some really deep patterns, maybe patterns we don't even know are there, and these unseen energetic influences.
Which brings us to a final thought for you, our listener. Building on this idea of conscious creation and freedom from maybe unseen stuff.
What unseen agreements or maybe echoes from your own past might be subtly shaping your present experience right now? And what could be possible if those are brought into the light?
Something to consider, perhaps, the implications of these energetic influences and just the power of self-awareness in our own lives. What might you become aware of if you started looking?